For the longest amount of time, we, the Bollywood audience, has resorted to classifying our film protagonists as heroes. Unlike the West and many other industries, our perception of the quintessential heroism has paved way for a generation of what can only be classified as superheroes without the cape. Our heroes can do it all. They can fight the bad guys all at once in many cases, and that too without any justifiable training, woo their love interest, don a chiseled physique without ever being seen in a gym in the film, sing songs with beautiful voices, sometimes even playing an instrument while doing so, dance on the streets, and also make it look cool at the same time. They're superheroes. Our Bollywood heroes exemplify perfect men, at least from our perspective, which is why it's particularly eye-catching when some of our lead stars actually play characters that go beyond the surface level heroism expected from them. We rarely get to see grey characters in the lead in commercial Hindi cinema because more often than not, it attracts a lot of criticism to the art and sometimes even going as far as hurting the reputation of the actor behind the role. Regardless of the overall film, in today's times, it's indeed a brave decision for stars to come out of their glorious comfort zones and play characters that don't fit our moral standing. And that's exactly what we'd be looking at today. Please subscribe to Filmanter before we begin and share this video with your friends on your social media, maybe print it on your t-shirt or like in my case, on Times Square. With that out of the way, this is Amir and here are 5 morally questionable heroes from the 21st century. Number 5, Ayaan Sankar from Ae Dil Hai Mushkil.
कलीसा बहुत अपसेट थी।
क्यों? यार चेक बाउंस हो गया।
इज्जत से बात करो।
कच्चे में इज्जत मांग रहे हो?
Okay, I know what you're thinking. Was Ayaan really immoral? He came across as pretty vulnerable in his quest to win the love of his best friend. And that's a legitimate argument. But let's not forget Ayaan also ended up doing some very questionable things along the path. See, being persistent in wooing a girl who clearly doesn't reciprocate the same for you and time and again shuts your attempts down is already a vicky-wacky territory. Add to that his clear abuse of her dependency on him through her tough times, and then going as far as despising her for not feeling attracted to him when he knows she's already bloody married, and you get a character that constantly tries to balance on the shaky fine line of being a vulnerable victim of his own emotions and being someone who can't get over a simple rejection. It's a weird one because we're not sure if director Karan Johar himself knew that he was procuring a problematic character that despite getting all the songs in the film and the heartbreaks and all the other bells and whistles to make the audience root for him, quite easily comes across as an entitled little brat. A spoiled man-child, if you will, whose first world problems in his relationships turned him into an inconsiderate and in many scenes downright offensive friend to Alize. And maybe that first part works for him. Us realizing from the start that he's just a 16-year-old in the costume of a full-blown man reduces the effects of his scarce but prevalent problematic traits. Number 4, Kundan Shankar from Ranjana. Hey, speaking of being persistent in your quest to woo a girl who clearly couldn't give two shits, let's talk about the much talked about Bollywood debut of Dhanush as the happy-go-lucky yet deeply flawed Kundan. Ranjana romanticizes stalking. There's no two ways about it. And we're not saying it's bad since that's what the makers believed in at least. Any normal person watching Kundan could tell that the guy on a bad day could do something extremely violent to prove a point. That's not to say he doesn't do something like that, of course. Oh no, he threatens to blade himself in the wrist just to get a yes from the girl. And then goes on to do that. Guys, that's just the start of it all. It only gets progressively worse from this point. And unlike Alize from Ae Dil Hai Mushkil, it's not like the girl Kundan loves care about him anyways. Yes, she finds him a good company at some point in her life, but not enough to justify his actions under the misread cues umbrella. It's only a matter of time when Kundan's antics turn out to be fatal for people around them, and all that's left is a woman who despises him for what he did, all while the film still subtly tries to redeem the protagonist. Number 3, Tommy Singh from Urta Punjab. Okay, we're finally in the Shahid Kapoor territory, and you knew we were going to be here sooner rather than later. But hey, this time the movie actually addresses the many flaws of its protagonist for a self-aware character arc that doesn't feel oversimplified for once. Tommy Singh was a drug-abusing pop star whose songs, public image, and a general influence on society gives birth to a generation of abusive, impressionable teenagers in Punjab that the singer largely stays ignorant to. The fact that so many young men idolize this freak thanks to the star culture prevalent in India, drug abuse among the masses ends up becoming a humongous problem for the state as a whole. In a scene, Tommy gets jailed for his substance abuse, only to meet two young apparent fans there who were convicted of their own mother's homicide. It takes a while to get there and finally see Tommy as a real, relatable individual towards the end of the film, but the path to it sees some very nasty things done by the artist, least of which include blowing off his manager's ear in a fit of rage. Number 2. Dev Saran from Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna.
हम खुश हैं हमने अपनी जिंदगी बना ली.
When Shah Rukh Khan donned the role of Dev in Karan Johar's third consecutive film with him, we were quick to assume this would be yet another larger-than-life romantic hero pandering to the brand Khan had turned himself into by the time this movie released. And if you look at the songs in isolation even today, you still feel that's what the character is about. But that ends up being far opposite from the actual truth. Dev was an insecure husband whose lack of self-confidence over the years had turned a once cheerful football player into a bitter, distasteful, and just an unpleasant man to be around. His close relationships like that with his preteen son suffer for the exact same reason, but nothing came close to taking most of the brunt of his agony than his relationship with his wife Riya, who keeps taking the rude behavior with a smile on her face and never lets that get in the way of their otherwise perfect home. But it only gets worse from that point. Dev, who believes he's in a condescending marriage just because his wife earns more than him, goes on to get romantically involved with another woman. Another married woman, might I add. There's a lot of psychological delving the movie presents during its runtime to make us decide whether Dev's emotions are justified or not, but the consequences of those emotions definitely rub other characters and the viewers in all the wrong ways possible. And number 1, Kabir Singh from Kabir Singh.
अभी हम लोग कॉलेज में है तो ऐसा हो रहा है. कल हम लोग ले होंगे तो कौन गारंटी लेता है कि उसके साथ वापस ऐसा नहीं होगा? कौन गारंटी लेगा? तू गारंटी लेगा?
I mean, did you expect something else? Kabir Singh divided the Hindi filmgoers like no other protagonist had done upon the film's release for a very long time. To some, the film celebrated passionate love and the unconditional mental toll it takes on you when you feel everything will be snatched away from you. And to others, Kabir Singh was just a borderline sociopath with brains, whose lack of control on his emotions made him one of the most toxic and in many cases harmful human beings to be around. When he's feeling attracted, he would abuse his social standing to plant a kiss on the girl with no consent whatsoever. When he's feeling angry, he would slap the same girl right across the face while she continues to beg him to stay. When he's feeling sad, he would practically drink to death. And when he's feeling horny, he would, well, saying that Kabir Singh was a problematic character would be an understatement of giant proportions. While his motivations might make sense on paper, how he goes about achieving what he wants makes him one of the most polarizing lead characters of the decade, if not the most polarizing. Shahid Kapoor, we all know by this point, thrives with grey characters that flirt between the line of good and evil. It's sad that the actor himself failed in getting universal acclaim for his portrayal of the troubled protagonist, because it sure was worthwhile. And there you have it, guys, 5 morally questionable heroes from the 21st century. Now before you jump off, I have a quick announcement to make. We've branched off to doing short films separately. That doesn't take anything away from this channel, it's just a spin-off thing we'll be doing side by side, and would really appreciate if you could support us in all the ways you can. We have already collaborated with Ibad Thanvi for our first short released on that channel, so head up over there and let us know how we did. It's a horror, you guys. Who doesn't love a horror, right? So check out the film. I'll pin the video link in the comment section down below. Flood the video with your feedback, ideas for other shorts, collaboration requests, and all that fun stuff. With that out of the way, have a safe week ahead. This is Amir, and I will see you soon.